All right. Over the weekend, I was just getting email after email after email from people in the audience saying, David, look, here's another one of these prominent anti-vaxxers who just died of COVID. Here's another one of these prominent anti-maskers who just died of COVID. Here's another one of these ivermectin people who just died of COVID. I had three stories actually planned for today. We're only going to get to two of them. And I think these are important to go over for a few different reasons, which we're going to get to. The third one we're actually going to get to tomorrow because it's a little different. It's a militia member who was also anti-mask and anti-vax who died of COVID. But let's just jump right into the first one. We now have the third conservative radio host who condemned the COVID vaccine who has died of COVID. If you didn't understand what was going on and you just zoomed out, you might say, wow, being a right-wing radio host seems really dangerous in the United States in some way. This is Marc Bernier. He was a mainstay on talk radio in Daytona. This is the state of Florida. A conservative Florida radio host who spoke out against COVID vaccines died after a weeks-long fight with the virus, marking the third radio personality to die from coronavirus who publicly rejected vaccines. The death of Marc Bernier, 65, who was a mainstay on talk radio in Daytona, was announced Saturday night by the radio station WNDB that he was affiliated with for 3 decades. It is with great sadness that WNDB and the Southern Stone Communications announced the passing of Marc Bernier, who informed and entertained listeners on WNDB for over 30 years. We kindly ask that privacy is given to Marc's family during this time of grief. I think that it would be more useful if they didn't hide the cause of death in these announcements. It's almost exactly like the Phil Valentine thing, where the radio station statement doesn't mention the anti-vax element and the COVID death. Even if it's not, you don't have to attack the person, but just say, of COVID, folks, let's end this together. Get the vaccine, wear a mask where recommended. There would actually be some more that comes from this that would be useful. Bernier was known for inviting different viewpoints on the show, including Democrats, but had publicly railed against vaccines. The Daytona Beach News Journal reported Bernier had been hospitalized since August 7. When Florida's Democratic Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried in July urged people to get vaccines on Twitter by saying the greatest generation had to defeat the Nazis to preserve our way of life. You're only being asked to get a shot, so be a patriot. Bernier replied on the platform, should say, now the U.S. government is acting like Nazis. Get the shot. Died of COVID, likened the vaccine to Nazism, dead of COVID. Okay. Fried is challenging Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in 22, said, my heart goes out to his family and friends. We covered this story previously on August 4th. Another Florida conservative radio host who had criticized the coronavirus vaccine, Dick Farrell, also died from COVID complications. Farrell had worked at several radio stations and was a fill-in anchor on Newsmax. He strongly condemned the vaccine, posting on July 3rd, why take a vaccine promoted by people who lied to you all along about masks, where the virus came from, and the death toll? Of course, there were no lies about masks. In March of 2020, Dr. Fauci said, it's probably not necessary for the general population. By April of 2020, Fauci and everyone else was saying, we now know more, wear the mask. Lied about where the virus came from. That's just lab leak hypothesis stuff that's unproven. And lied about the death toll. It's actually been the state of Florida that has been playing fast and loose with the statistics. And actually, I've mentioned this before, but let me just slightly digress. Over the weekend, I got a bunch of emails from people saying, David, why do Florida's death numbers look so good? Anytime you look at Florida's death count, it's low. It's just collapsed. This is a game Florida is playing, and I told you about it a week and a half ago. What Florida is doing is they are reporting COVID deaths a full week at a time for the previous week. The way most of these websites work is, if Florida doesn't report cases for yesterday, it shows up as a 0. If Florida doesn't report cases, deaths for the day before, it shows as 0. So what Florida is constantly doing is saying, okay, it's now August 30th. Here's the death numbers for August 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And those go crazy. But then because they've not reported the recent dates, it crashes to almost zero. And then next week, they'll report the numbers for this week. The point is Florida is playing a game where by delaying reporting by a week and doing a week at a time, it always looks like the last 5 to 7 days are just looking really good in Florida. It's just a game. You have to understand that that's what's going on. And now 2 right-wing Florida radio hosts, plus Phil Valentine from, was it Georgia, Tennessee? I think Tennessee. Multiple anti-vax right-wing radio hosts have now died of COVID. Let's go on to the next similar story.